You believe that if you just pushed harder, if you had more discipline, if you forced yourself to wake up earlier, work longer, stay focused, eventually, you would feel complete. You would feel driven. You would feel alive. That is exactly the problem. Not because effort is useless, not because discipline does not matter, but because you are trying to build a roof on a house that has no foundation, and no amount of force, willpower, or self-punishment will change that. The structure will collapse. It always does. Before we continue, subscribe to this channel and leave a like. This type of content is not common, and it helps the channel keep bringing deep reflections like this one. It matters more than you think. Now let us go back to what you were taught. You were raised in a culture that worships effort, that celebrates exhaustion, that rewards people who burn themselves out in the name of progress, productivity, success. You were told that if you are not moving forward, you are falling behind. That rest is weakness. That emptiness means you are not trying hard enough, and so you tried. You worked. You optimized. You set goals, you tracked habits, you read the books, followed the routines, forced yourself into action even when every part of you wanted to stop. And still, you felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not pride, not even relief. Just tiredness. A deep, unexplainable tiredness that sleep does not fix. A kind of emotional flatness that makes everything feel distant, mechanical, meaningless. You blamed yourself. You thought you were broken, lazy, weak, lacking some essential quality that other people seem to have. Some inner fire, some natural motivation. But here is what no one told you. It was never about motivation. Motivation is not the engine. It is the exhaust. It is what comes out when the conditions are right, when the foundation is solid, when the system beneath is functioning. And if you do not feel it, it is not because you are deficient. It is because you are trying to live at the wrong level of human need. You are trying to self-actualize when you have not even stabilized. Observe your own life for a moment, not with judgment, just with honesty. Think about the last time you tried to work on a personal project, something creative, something meaningful, something that mattered to you. How long did it last before the anxiety crept in, before the doubt, before you started wondering if you were wasting time, if you should be doing something more productive, more secure, more acceptable? Now think about the last time you felt truly at ease, not distracted, not numb, not entertained, but genuinely calm, genuinely safe. Can you even remember it? Most people cannot, because most people are not living in a state of safety. They are living in a state of constant low-grade survival. And survival does not care about your dreams. It does not care about your potential. It cares about making it through the next day without losing what little stability you have left. And that is the inversion. You think the problem is that you lack motivation, that you are not inspired enough, not passionate enough, not driven enough. But it is not lack of motivation that is blocking you. It is that you are still trying to meet needs that were never satisfied in the first place. You are trying to build meaning when you do not even feel secure. You are trying to pursue growth when you do not even feel belonging. You are trying to become someone when you are still terrified of losing everything. And the mind does not work that way. It cannot work that way. Abraham Maslow spent his entire career studying this, not in theory, in observation, in the actual behavior of real human beings. And what he found was simple, devastating, and completely ignored by the culture you were raised in. Human beings do not move freely between levels of need. They do not choose what to prioritize based on logic or ambition or inspiration. They prioritize based on deficiency, based on what is missing, based on what threatens survival, connection, or stability. And if those lower needs are not met, the higher ones become irrelevant, not difficult, irrelevant. The mind will not let you focus on them. It will sabotage you, it will drain you. It will make you feel empty, confused, stuck, and broken, even though you're doing everything right. Because you are not doing everything right. You are doing the right things in the wrong order. Imagine trying to paint a masterpiece while the building is on fire. That is what self-improvement feels like when your foundation is unstable. It does not matter how good the painting could be. It does not matter how much talent you have. The fire will always take priority. And the fire is not always obvious. It is not always physical danger. Most of the time, it is emotional, relational, financial, existential. It is the fear of being abandoned, the fear of being irrelevant, the fear of being exposed as inadequate, the fear of losing the little control you have. The fear that if you stop performing, stop producing, stop proving yourself, everything will fall apart. That fear does not go away with motivation. It does not go away with discipline. It goes away when the need beneath it is met, and until that happens, you will keep spinning, keep working, keep trying, keep feeling like something is wrong with you. Like everyone else figured it out except you. But they did not. They are just better at hiding it. Or they are living at a level of security you do not have access to yet. Or they collapsed years ago and never recovered. This is not a personal failure. This is a structural misunderstanding of how human beings work. If this makes sense to you, comment here where you are watching from. Sometimes, knowing that we are not alone in this changes everything. Now, let us go deeper. Maslow did not create a pyramid to make you feel bad. He created it to show you where the breaking point is, to show you why entire populations of people can have access to food, shelter, technology, and still feel completely empty inside. Because the pyramid is not just about survival. It is about sequence. You cannot skip steps. You cannot jump from insecurity to self-expression and expect it to hold. You cannot go from isolation to purpose and expect to feel whole. The mind will reject it, not because you are weak, but because you are human. And modern life actively prevents you from building that foundation. You are told to network before you have real friendships, to build a personal brand before you have a stable identity, to optimize your productivity before you even know what you are working toward, to monetize your creativity before you have processed your own pain. You are told that if you are not growing, you are dying. That if you are not producing, you are wasting time, that rest is a luxury, that safety is for the weak. That belonging is something you earn, not something you need. And so you internalize it. You push, you perform, you pretend. You build a life that looks successful from the outside and feels hollow from the inside. And you blame yourself for not being grateful enough, for not being strong enough, for not being enough. But it was never about being enough. It was about being in the wrong place on the hierarchy, trying to meet a need that cannot be met until the one below it is stable. And here is the part that breaks people. You do not like this idea. You do not want it to be true, because it means that all the effort, all the discipline, all the self-improvement, all the optimization, it was not the solution. It was a distraction. It means that the problem was never your lack of willpower. It was your lack of foundation. And worse, it means that fixing it is not about doing more. It is about doing less, about stepping back, about admitting that you were building in the wrong direction. That contradicts everything you were taught, everything you invested in, everything you sacrificed for. But the mind does not negotiate with reality. It responds to it. And if the foundation is missing, no amount of construction on top will make it stable. Let us be very clear about what this looks like in real life, because this is not abstract philosophy. This is the architecture of your daily emotional experience. You wake up, and before your feet hit the floor, the anxiety is already there. Not about anything specific, just a vague, persistent sense that something is wrong, that you are behind, that you are not doing enough. So you check your phone, you scroll, you compare, you see people thriving, winning, succeeding, people who seem to have it together, people who seem to know what they are doing, and you feel worse, not because you are jealous, but because it confirms what you already suspected, that you are the problem, that something in you is fundamentally broken. So you make a plan. You decide that today will be different. You will wake up earlier tomorrow. You will work harder. You will finally start that thing you have been putting off. You will fix yourself. And for a few hours, maybe even a few days, it works. You feel energized, focused, like you are finally getting somewhere, and then it crashes, the energy disappears, the focus dissolves, and you are back where you started, confused, frustrated, ashamed. You call it procrastination. You call it self-sabotage. You call it lack of discipline. But it is none of those things. It is your nervous system screaming at you that the foundation is unstable, that you are trying to run when you have not even learned to stand, that the thing you are avoiding is not the work itself, but the terror underneath it. The terror that no matter how much you achieve, it will never be enough to make you feel safe. The terror that no matter how hard you try, you will still end up alone. The terror that your entire sense of worth is contingent on performance, and the moment you stop performing, you will be exposed as worthless. That is not a mindset issue. That is a survival issue. And survival issues do not get solved with affirmations, goal setting, or habit tracking. They get solved by addressing the actual need that is unmet. And here is what Maslow understood that almost everyone misses. The needs are not separate. They are cumulative. They build on each other. And if one level is compromised, everything above it becomes fragile. Think about it like this. If you do not have food, you do not care about respect. If you do not have safety, you do not care about creativity. If you do not have connection, you do not care about legacy. Not because those higher needs do not matter, but because the lower ones take precedence, always, without exception. And in modern society, we have done something catastrophic. We have made it possible to survive without stabilizing, to function without feeling secure, to perform without being whole. We have created systems that reward output over well-being, that prioritize productivity over presence, that valorize ambition over peace. And so people climb, they achieve, they succeed, and they collapse, quietly, internally, in ways that do not show up on a resume or a social media feed. They have careers but no community, accomplishments but no peace, recognition but no rest. And they keep climbing, because stopping feels like failure, because admitting that something is missing feels like weakness, because the culture tells them that if they are not happy yet, they just need to achieve more. But that is the lie. Achievement does not create safety. Recognition does not create belonging. Success does not create peace. Those things come from the foundation. And if the foundation is missing, no amount of height will make the structure stable. Maslow saw this in his research over and over again. He studied people who had everything by societal standards and felt nothing. And he studied people who had very little and felt whole. And the difference was never about what they had. It was about whether their needs were being met in sequence, whether they had built from the ground up, or whether they had jumped to the top and hoped the bottom would hold. And in most cases, it did not hold. It does not hold. You can see it everywhere if you know what to look for. The executive who has power, wealth, influence, and wakes up every morning with a sense of dread they cannot name. The artist who has talent, opportunity, and audience, and cannot create anything without crippling self-doubt. The parent who has a family, a home, stability, and feels completely disconnected from everyone around them. These are not people who lack ambition. They are not people who lack effort. They are people who are living at the wrong level of need, who are trying to self-actualize without ever having felt truly secure, who are trying to express themselves without ever having felt truly seen. And the system does not care. The system benefits from this, because people who feel incomplete keep consuming, keep producing, keep searching for the next thing that will finally make them feel whole. And it never does, because it is not the thing that is missing, it is the foundation. Now here is where it gets even more uncomfortable. You have probably heard about Maslow's hierarchy before. You might have even seen the pyramid in school, in a presentation, in a self-help book. And you nodded, you understood it intellectually, and then you did nothing with it. Because knowing the theory does not change the behavior, especially when the behavior is driven by unmet needs you are not even aware of. You can know that you need safety and still reject it. You can know that you need belonging and still isolate. You can know that you need rest and still work yourself into exhaustion, not because you are self-destructive, but because the culture has trained you to distrust your own needs, to see them as weakness, to override them in the name of productivity, ambition, success. And that override works, for a while, until it does not. Until you wake up one day and realize that you have built an entire life around avoiding the very things that would actually make you feel alive. You avoided rest because it felt like giving up. You avoided connection because it felt too vulnerable. You avoided safety because it felt like settling. You avoided play because it felt irresponsible. And in avoiding those things, you created the exact condition that makes growth impossible. You created a life where motivation cannot exist, where creativity cannot flow, where meaning cannot emerge. Because those higher experiences require a stable base. They require a nervous system that is not in constant alert. They require a mind that is not consumed with survival. They require a heart that feels safe enough to open. And if you do not have that, no technique will give it to you. No course, no guru, no amount of hustle or grind or manifestation. You have to go back. You have to stabilize. You have to build the foundation you skipped. And that is terrifying, because it means admitting that you were wrong, that you wasted time, that you built in the wrong direction. But here is the reframe. You did not waste time. You gathered data. You learned what does not work. You discovered where the breaking point is. And now you have a choice. Keep pretending the foundation does not matter, or start building it. And if you choose to build it, here is what that actually looks like. It looks like saying no to opportunities that drain you, even if they look good on paper. It looks like prioritizing sleep over status, connection over content, presence over productivity. It looks like admitting when you feel unsafe, instead of pretending you have it all together. It looks like asking for help, instead of suffering in silence to protect your image. It looks like letting people see you, even when you are not impressive, optimized, or successful. It looks like choosing relationships that feel nourishing, instead of relationships that feel strategic. It looks like doing work that aligns with your values, instead of work that maximizes income or recognition. It looks like giving yourself permission to rest without needing to justify it with exhaustion. It looks like small, quiet, unglamorous decisions that do not make good content but make good lives. And those decisions do not feel like progress. They feel like regression, like you are falling behind, like everyone else is moving forward and you are standing still. But that is the illusion. Everyone else is not moving forward. They are moving up without a base. And eventually, they will collapse too. You are just choosing to collapse now on your own terms so you can rebuild correctly. And that is not failure. That is wisdom. Maslow spent years observing what he called self-actualized people, people who seemed to have unlocked the highest levels of human experience, people who were creative, fulfilled, at peace. And what he found was not that they were more ambitious, more disciplined, or more motivated than everyone else. It was that they had stable foundations. They had their basic needs met. They felt safe. They felt connected. They felt valued. And because of that stability, they were free to explore, create, grow, and contribute without the constant undercurrent of fear. They were not better. They were not more talented. They were not chosen. They were structurally sound. And that is what most people miss. They look at those individuals and think, I need to be more like them. I need to work harder, think differently, want it more. But that is not the gap. The gap is not in effort, it is in foundation. And until you address the foundation, all the effort in the world will just make you more tired, more frustrated, more confused about why it is not working. So what do you do now? You stop treating motivation like the goal. You stop treating discipline like the solution. You stop treating success like the foundation. And you start asking, what do I actually need right now to feel stable? Not what do I want? Not what should I want? Not what would impress people? But what do I need? Do you need safety? Then create it. Even if it means earning less, even if it means slowing down, even if it means disappointing people. Do you need connection? Then seek it, even if it feels vulnerable, even if it means risking rejection, even if it means admitting you are lonely. Do you need rest? Then take it, even if it feels unproductive, even if it feels like weakness, even if the culture tells you that rest is for people who have earned it. Because here is the truth that no one wants to hear. You do not earn the right to meet your needs. You meet your needs so you can function, so you can grow, so you can eventually contribute at the level you are capable of. And if you keep delaying that, keep overriding that, keep sacrificing that in the name of some future version of success, you will never get there. You will just keep building higher on a foundation that cannot hold. And one day it will all come down. And you will be left with the same question you are avoiding right now. What do I actually need? Maslow knew this. He warned about it. He wrote about it. He begged people to understand that the hierarchy is not optional. It is structural. It is how human beings work. And we ignored him. We built a culture that rewards skipping steps, that celebrates people who sacrifice their foundation for achievement, that valorizes burnout, exhaustion, and collapse as signs of dedication. And now we have entire generations of people who are successful, accomplished, recognized, and completely empty. Not because they are broken, but because they were taught to build in the wrong order. And the only way out is to go back, to stop, to admit, to rebuild. Not because it is easy, but because it is real. And once you do, something shifts. Not dramatically, not immediately, but gradually. You start to notice that you can focus without forcing, that you can create without anxiety, that you can rest without guilt, that you can connect without fear. You start to notice that motivation is not something you have to manufacture. It just emerges, naturally, quietly, because the conditions are finally right. And that is what Maslow was pointing to. Not a technique, not a hack, not a shortcut, a structure, a sequence, a way of being that honors how humans actually work instead of how we wish they worked. And if you are still here, If you have listened this far, it means some part of you already knows this is true. Some part of you has been waiting for permission to stop climbing and start stabilizing, to stop performing and start being, to stop chasing motivation and start building the conditions that make motivation possible. And this is that permission, not from me, but from reality. From the structure of human need, from the decades of research that Maslow and others have done, to show us that there is another way, a slower way, a quieter way, a way that does not make good content, but makes good lives. And if you are ready for that, then the work begins now. Not with a goal, not with a plan, not with a system, but with a question: what do I actually need right now? And then, the courage to meet it. If this content helped you see something that did not make sense before, subscribe to this channel and leave your like. It helps this kind of reflection reach more people who need it.